Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make sure that my legends get a payoff.
Totally do.
They get their money's worth.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Independent media, you're kicking ass. Talking about sounds like Mandambi. And I got two questions. Why wouldn't you just be endorsing him? And also, are you talking to Mayor Adams and the governor?
With respect to affordability, in my opening day remarks here in the House of Representatives, I was very clear that House Democrats were going to focus on lowering the high cost of living.
Okay, let's get to it. This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. And okay, the big news, of course, of the day is another shooting in Minneapolis. This is a situation that obviously is developing. And I will say this, I mean, it's starting to look not so great for the federal government. At first, certainly when they put the information out that this individual had a firearm, which of course in our country is not at all uncommon, now we're hearing that this person is an ICU nurse. And this person is also an American citizen. Remember that the entire project that is ICE in Minnesota and ICE all over the country and all that is supposed to be about rounding up people who are undocumented and who are in some way involved in some sort of criminality. That was the supposed policy reason for having all these ICE agents running around. And now we see that there have been 2 American citizens shot dead in less than 20 days, in less than a month. First on January 7, the shooting death of Renee Good in Minneapolis at the hands of ICE personnel or whoever they are. I say whoever they are because, of course, we have no evidence or proof of who these people are. And, of course, if the federal government is not going to conduct an investigation of exactly who these people are and what their track record is in law enforcement, it's going to be hard to figure out what is going on here and who's conducting these operations. What we do know is what we see on the video. And you got to really, in this world, be paying attention to original video because obviously videos get doctored. I do think there's a concerted effort out there on the tech bro right to put up videos that are misleading and that confuse everybody. I think that's extremely, extremely, extremely intentional. They want everyone to be in a situation where we cannot figure out what is real and what is fake. I think that's a concerted effort. But to get back to the situation here, this is obviously a developing situation in which we're getting more and more information as the hours go on and as the videos come out. There is some reporting that indicates from a lot of people that indicates that this person who was shot was an ICU nurse. Now, I mean, I can see that the Trump administration is attempting to try and paint this person as some sort of domestic terrorist. That's going to be hard to do when the person is an ICU nurse. That's going to be hard to do. That's going to be a hard trick to pull off. I'm sure they're going to try it anyway because, of fact, that's what they do. His name is Alex Jeffrey Pretti, Pretti, and he is 37 years old. And I'm sure that everybody will be scouring his social media and everything, and and all that. But at the end of the day, I mean, if it turns out that this early reporting that we're hearing ends up being accurate, that he is in fact a nurse, it's going to be hard to paint him as a negative person. Doctors and nurses are held in high esteem, as are our military. There's just certain jobs that people really hold in high esteem, and that's one of them. And this is going to be a tough sell if, in fact, the administration continues, which there's no indication that they won't continue, to try to paint this individual, Alex Jeffrey Pretti, as some sort of a criminal or some sort of a, person who brandishes guns in cops' faces. We don't see any of that on the video. And in fact, Drop Site News has a video that is quite interesting from the other angle. I suspect this is from the woman in the pink coat, because if you look at the video from the other side, the original video that we saw from this situation, you can see that there's a woman in the background in a pink coat, and that to me would indicate um, that would indicate that that is the person who is in fact um, taking this video. This video is starting to pop up. It's popped up at the Bulwark, and it is now starting to pop up on YouTube. Every now and then you'll see a new video, but this video is starting to become the video that gives the best vantage point so far that we've seen. Now, keep in mind, these folks that are purported to be ICE, they do in fact have body cameras. So it's unclear to me why we're not, if everything is cool and it's a good shoot and it's kosher and hey, we were just scared and we feared for our lives and it's a legitimate shoot and all this other stuff, you do have to ask the question, why wouldn't they just share their body camera footage? Because if they're in the right, that body camera footage is going to demonstrate that, and it's going to give us the audio of the incident. But let's just look at one of the videos. I think the most consequential video, even though it was on Bulwark, it was in fact obtained by Drop Site News, which is the Ryan Grimm publication. Drop Site News, independent media, of course, strikes again. And let's take a look at this video. So that right there is the angle that is, I think, the one that's the least popular angle at this moment. But I can assure you that's going to change on the internet pretty soon. Everyone is going to see that angle. It gives you a much clearer view of what's going on. And that is probably going to be the one that is going to get most people thinking that this shoot was probably not a particularly good idea. I mean, hard to tell, right? There is going to be a situation where certainly if there's an investigation, it's hard to believe that the federal government is going to conduct a fair investigation, a full investigation. They have already made up their mind, right? And the way that you know that is they've already made up their mind. They're putting out statements left and right and making statements left and right that come to a conclusion. There is no real analysis there. And I have a feeling that Christy Nome, in about 20 minutes, she's about to have a press conference in 20 minutes. I tend to doubt that she's going to, stand up there and say, hey, we really don't know what happened here. Let's investigate. I doubt that that's what she's going to say. Now, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe she will get up and say that. Maybe Christy Nome will get up and say, hey, you know what? We really don't know what happened here, but we need to investigate. I tend to doubt that after what we saw with Renee Good. there's just a certain way that this administration, of course, conducts itself, and that is problematic. The other thing that's problematic as well, we look at what the president has put out on X social media, Truth Social. He has put out the photo of the gun, which is on a car seat. Now, the other question becomes, okay, wait a minute. If the gun is on a car seat, why was the officer using deadly force, fearing for his life? Shouldn't that photo of that gun be on the street? Why is the gun separate from the person? Or did they take the gun and put it back into his car? The car of Mr. Alex Jeffrey Pretti? We don't know. What we do see on the video is Alex Jeffrey Pretti with a cell phone in his hand, walking toward the ICE agents, filming them. And you don't see anything near a car that would appear to be his. If we can figure out whether or not it is a car, the vehicle is his, that would be helpful. But it is hard to fathom that they photographed the gun in the car as opposed to just photographing the gun on the street, if in fact he had it when he was in the street tussling with the police. The other thing about that video, of course, by Dropsite News, is that video shows you that in fact the ICE officers push down a woman right before they get to Alex Jeffrey Pretti. They push her down. They pepper spray her in the face. Then they get to him. So it's like a little tussle there with two people. And there doesn't seem to be a car or vehicle like right there where you could, reasonably argue that, okay, maybe if he went over to the car and got the gun out, then that could be, of course, a justification for use of deadly force. You're not seeing any of that. He's just standing in the street filming. He walks into the street. He directs traffic a little bit. He's got his phone in his hand. And then he has this tough tussle. He has the tussle, and there's a little bit of back and forth, and now it's going to be unclear as to when this gun comes up. And again, how the gun travels from him to another location to the seat. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe they took the gun off him and put it on the seat and took a photo of it. Like, that could have been it. But keeping in mind that, again, we live in a country that has more guns than people, and people having guns is not at all a surprise. And it certainly would make most of your law enforcement officers pretty tense. But at the same time, does a person get executed for obtaining a gun? Wow. Okay, well, let's look at the chat a little bit here. TC, wow, you live in Minneapolis. I've been to Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's a very interesting city. I'm certainly not an expert on the gun laws in Minneapolis. I do know that whether you have open carry or concealed carry, you need a permit for both. There has been some reporting that Alex Pretti has a gun permit of some type. I have not seen the actual permit or the proof of that yet, but there's already been comments on some news organizations saying that he does have a legal permit. We'll see if that's accurate. Let's see. It's only January. Still have 3 months. Yeah, 3 years of Donald Trump. Yeah, it is only January, and in fact, this is going to be a very interesting situation. I actually think what they're trying to do, and what Stephen Miller is trying to do, is he is trying to get everybody into a situation in Minnesota where they can institute the Insurrection Act and make all sorts of arguments as to why we have to have federal troops in Minnesota, and then, oh, that's right, we also have to cancel elections. Like, that'll be the next play. I mean, that's just what it will appear like they're trying to get to here. Blue House, or I should say Blues House. How you doing? Yeah, so they had a presser and said he had a a legal carry and conceal permit. So not only does he have a legal carry permit, he has a legal conceal permit. Now, again, I'm not an expert in the gun laws in Minnesota. I'm an expert in the gun laws in Virginia. You don't need a permit in Virginia to open carry. You need it for conceal carry. Of course, every state is different, but that's interesting because in Minnesota, one thing I do know is you need a permit whether it's concealed or not. He had both. See, so it's going to be hard. Like I said, Christy Nome has a press conference in 13 minutes. It's going to be hard for them to argue that an ICU nurse is a domestic terrorist, who, by the way, is carrying his firearm lawfully in the United States, which so many people do. I mean, I need people on the right to decide what they feel about gun laws. Everybody is so pro Second Amendment until something like this happens. And now they're arguing, the same people are so pro Second Amendment. Oh, wait a minute, but he had a gun out, so that's why they get to shoot him. It doesn't really work that way. Like I said, most general orders of most police, it's going to be hard to argue that what we saw was a justification for use of deadly force. And again, the use of deadly force continuum for most police departments is very, very specific, and it is studied. It is studied by a lot of people, and professional law enforcement are well aware what the use of force continuum is and well aware what the rules are. And typically, you have to be in fear of your life to discharge your weapon and use deadly force. It's hard to believe that that can be argued when you have 5 people tackling one dude on the sidewalk or in the street, and his gun is in the car. But we don't know if the gun is in the car, so we don't know yet whether the gun was in his possession or in the car. We don't really know that yet. Whether it was in his possession or not, it's hard to see on the video. But what you don't see is him taking out a firearm, pointing at anybody. You don't see him brandishing a firearm right before the incident, or you see him in the street filming the incident with his cell phone. That's going to be a tough sell. That's going to be a tough sell for, and particularly only like 14 days after the ICE personnel shot and killed a mother of 3. Now they're back again, and now somebody else is dead. Like that is going to be hard to argue. And I mean, again, the government does have the evidence because they have the body camera evidence. Really, all they need to do at the end of the day is release the body camera evidence. You'd have the audio and you would have the video. And so you'd have maybe some comments by the cop of what his concerns may have been in that moment. Or not, or maybe you have some comments by the individual who was shot dead, because that all does play into this. People say things, they make threats or not, you don't know. But one would think that if this was a good shoot, you put all that information out. Typically, law enforcement, when it is a good shoot, when it is a situation where they feel justified, they have no problem putting out that body camera video. They'll put that body camera video out real fast when they feel like, hey, we did the right thing here. I'll say it again. Somebody who is related to several members of the law enforcement community, it's not lost on me that we're dealing with a so-called law enforcement agency that wears masks, that has no identifying features on their person in terms of their name and badge number. Now, all this talk that you're hearing about being doxxed and we're afraid and our family is threatened. Well, wait a minute. The New York City Police Department has over 40,000 officers, all of whom have a badge number, and their name seen obviously to anyone who wants to see it in the public. They don't appear to be afraid of being doxxed, and that's the same for the Boston Police Department. That's the same for police in Texas and Houston and Dallas. So why is it that only ICE has to wear masks and be concealed and be in secret? Why is it that they're the only agency that's afraid that something might happen? I just think there's a consciousness of guilt issue there. You feel like you're doing something wrong, and therefore you are concealing your identity. And if you feel like you're doing something right, you don't conceal your identity, and professional law enforcement doesn't conceal their identity. So this is a situation where It is obviously growing more intense. You saw what happened. Individual gets shot in the street in broad daylight. This happened at 9 a.m. uh Pacific, no, Central. And 9 in the morning, somebody's getting shot dead in the street. And then so of course many members of the community took to the streets, as they should have, and showed up and started protesting. And then ICE, of course, backs up. And now we have sort of this sort of standoff position in Minneapolis. Should not be lost on everybody, on anyone, that the governor of Minnesota is the running mate of the former vice president and opponent of Donald Trump. And that, of course, would be Kamala Harris. Her running mate was Tim Walz, who, of course, is the governor of Minnesota. That should not, slip your mind during this. There's a reason why this is happening in this particular location. At any rate, there's a photo here that has been posted. Drop Site News, again, is doing a very good job at certain images and video. And that is the individual right there who was shot to death this morning in Minneapolis, who was apparently an ICU nurse named Alex Jeffrey Pretti. And the more we find out, 37 years old, and apparently an athlete. There's sort of a very athletic looking photo of him on a bike or something online. And yes, he was struggling and tussling with police, as was another individual, a woman who was next to him on the ground. And it's hard to tell on the video like where she ended up going. She sort of just went away from the scene. It is easy to see on the video, though, other individuals who would appear to be ICE agents or ICE standing there. And once that weapon gets discharged, boy, they stood back. It was like everybody just sort of just stands back and freezes. And I think even those ICE agents, the other ICE agents who did not discharge their weapon, I think were very surprised that somebody else discharged their weapon. I mean, you could just sort of see it on the video where they just sort of stand back and freeze, like, whoa, what just happened? Particularly multiple gunshots, right? So you're 4 and 5 shots is something that's going to stop the music for everybody. We'll see how far this routine goes. I agree with TC in the chat. This ain't going to go on too much longer when you're shooting white people. I mean, I think that is a very fair statement to make. Black Lives Matter was protesting the same sort of activity, much of which was captured on video, right? People getting beat up, people getting shot on video. Of course, the George Floyd killing on video. And all of this is on video, and that shook the world and ended up with, of course, the rapid growth of Black Lives Matter in terms of their fundraising and, just the attention paid to the organization. They just sort of blew up because of that particular incident, all on video, agonizing 9-minute video, of course, George Floyd dying and begging for his mother, etc., and so on. Now we have a situation in Minnesota. Within a month, the 2 white people are killed, who are American citizens, by the way. So any argument the administration wants to use with regard to, wow, we're tracking down criminals from other countries, that ain't gonna, that dog don't hunt, as they say. These people are American citizens. Renee Good was an American citizen, and now it turns out that Alex Jeffrey Pretti is an American citizen. How are they going to explain that? Now, typically the way that administration messaging works is they play what I call a confidence game, and their confidence game is just say things over and over again, no matter how inaccurate they may be. We just say it over and over and over again. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a tough sell when you're talking about an ICU nurse, an intensive care unit nurse. Okay. It's going to be a hard sell, and they better have something on their end. And again, I'm not sure why they wouldn't just put the body camera footage out. That would be the most obvious and easy thing to do. You put the body camera footage out, because maybe there's something that this individual said to law enforcement that we don't know anything about. Maybe he made a threat. You don't know. Maybe the officer said something to me. You just don't know. But you can see what led up to it. It seemed to be that they were agitated that he was filming them. That seems to be what's going on in that video. Again, by Drop Site News, giving credit to Drop Site News. And of course, the Bulwark did do a little special on it as well. But Drop Site News acquired the video from the other angle. The first angle is bad enough, but the other angle really shows the entire scene. It also shows Mr. Pretti walking into the street with his cell phone, holding it up like that. As you can see in this photo on the screen right now, he just has a cell phone up and he has an ICE agent in his face. Well, everybody knows that the ICE agents are extremely aggressive. We've seen that on so many videos, pulling pregnant women out of cars, using kids as bait to get people's fathers to come out so that they can arrest them. There's all sorts of tactics going on here that are quite interesting and quite aggressive. So right now, I'm waiting for the beginning of the press conference of Kristi Noem, Director, Secretary of Homeland Security, and that ought to be something. We'll see what she says. Now, of course, when Renee Good was shot, Kristi Noem came running out to declare that everything was the fault of the dead person. That's something that certainly we've heard before with regard to shootings that were spotlighted by Black Lives Matter. It's always the fault of the dead person. This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a real tough sell. And I know with this administration, when it comes to communication strategy, their game is clear. Hey, we just going to say anything, and you are simply going to just go along with it, right? I mean, they don't try to act as if the truth really matters. I mean, they just say stuff. I don't know they're going to get away with this one in terms of who this individual is. And of course, he is again, American citizen, because the policy reason for this entire thing was supposedly to be that, oh my goodness, we're tracking down criminals. Well, the two people that they've shot dead are not criminals, would appear. We'll see. We'll see if the ICU nurse had a criminal record. We'll find that out, right? Pretty soon. One would think, I mean, criminal records these days are very easy to get a hold of. They're usually public records documents. So I'm not hearing nothing about Alex Pretti having a criminal record. Not yet, but it's very early in this situation. It's an unfortunate situation. And I think that ICE is being extremely aggressive. I think that's pretty obvious. And, how long can this go on? Well, it'll go on. I think that the governor of, wow. I think that the governor of Minnesota is quite correct when he says it'll end when the American people make it end. I do think that that's an absolutely accurate statement, because when people got into the streets, everybody disappeared. ICE disappeared. There's, of course, a rumor that the Trump administration has queued up troops to invade Minneapolis if necessary. Wouldn't that be a scene? Again, none of these people are trained law enforcement in the same way that your local cops are trained law enforcement. So that's going to be that would be quite something if in fact they tried to do that. But you never know how far they may go. Stephen Miller is the person who's in charge of so much of this, and that, of course, is extremely dangerous. He has said things like ICE has full immunity. That's interesting. Oh, you just have full immunity because I said that you had full immunity. That's interesting. You can bet that there's going to be some lawsuits that will just absolutely knock you out. And you can bet that the lawsuit coming from this incident and the lawsuit that'll come from the incident involving Renee Good is going to result in millions of dollars worth of damages paid out. I will absolutely predict that by the federal government. I mean, there's no way you can take somebody's life and have it be this questionable and not get sued and probably lose. This is an interesting situation with regard to timing, because it was just the other day that the U.S. House voted to give more money to ICE. Isn't that nice? And there were 7 Democrats that joined that effort. 7, quote, moderate Democrats who joined that effort. Understand with the funding with regard to ICE, which is into the billions, it is locked in for 3 years. It is locked in for 3 years. So they had a vote last, I think it was June or July, on the ICE funding. And once that locked in, it locked in for 3 years. So these things that you're hearing about adding money or not adding money or what, really the ship has already sailed on that. And the only thing that can change it is an up and down vote in the House and the Senate and the president's signature saying that money would not be allocated. The chances of that are almost zero, that Donald Trump would sign anything that would cut ICE funding, or that the Republican-controlled House or Senate would pass a bill that would cut ICE funding. I mean, the chances of that are literally zero. So that's probably not going to happen. But this is starting to get to be a scary situation. I mean, let's understand something. We have the federal government in the streets of an American city, and now 2 people have been shot dead in less than a month. So anybody who thinks that that is normal operating procedure or standard business, wake up. And I'm really surprised that all you conservatives out there, you less government conservatives that were so suspicious of the government when they were trying to give you health care, you're suddenly not suspicious of the government when 2 people are dead within 30 days at the hands of the federal government. So I would love to understand the thinking of your conservative, your less government conservative. I would love to hear the arguments because this is, in fact, a situation that is getting increasingly intense. There's no doubt about that. And I suspect will get more increasingly intense. There's nothing happening right now to indicate that it will not. It's a very challenging situation. Obviously, the governor of Minnesota called for ICE to, of course, get out of Minnesota. He's done that before, of course. He apparently called the White House chief of staff, and nothing happened. So, I mean, it will, he, of course, is going to try to put as much pressure as he can on the Trump administration. They're probably going to ignore him. But the real thing that changes the game are the people in these cities where ICE is showing up. Now, remember, ICE did show up on Canal Street. If you're familiar with New York, Lower Manhattan, Chinatown, they showed up. They showed up and they were beaten back big time. Big time. And that type of thing is what will get this backing up, get the federal government on its back foot. With regard to sending these people into these cities, this is going to be a situation where, it'll take people getting in the streets. And again, a bunch of people got in the streets on this, and then ICE backed up. He worked for the VA. Oh my goodness! If he worked for this guy worked for the VA, that would be quite something. Again, I haven't heard that, but we'll see. I mean, the information is still coming in. And boy, that would be something. Whew. Yeah, Mike, there's a lot of conversation already going on about what the Democrats do when and if they get back into power in 2028. It's really 2029. Of course, the election would be in 2028, and they would take over in January 2029 should they win the White House. That is an ongoing conversation, and it's interesting because the Democrats, of course, are known for checking out when it comes to the part where you actually punish people for things that they've obviously done wrong and violations of the Constitution and of the law. So we have to you sort of wait to see what the Democrats' posture will be, and really, most importantly, who is in charge of the Democratic Party in 2028 into 2029. Oh man. So we'll see how this plays out, but I have a feeling it's going to play out not too good. Realize that the temperatures in Minneapolis are freezing cold, and people are still out there protesting and doing all sorts of things to get in front of the camera to show their displeasure with the situation. It's not just the elected officials. It is the people, and I can assure you that people in the streets is a hell of a lot more scary than anything that any elected official could say. So people are really looking to see, okay, wait a minute, what is the reaction going to be of people out there? And we're starting to see that, absolutely starting to see that. I mean, this is a crazy situation. There's some videos up now, some lives here and there. We'll see. Let me see what's going on with this one. Yeah, people are just yelling at the police, yelling at the cops. Very tense situation as created by the federal government and Donald Trump. And it's unfortunate because there is a huge difference here between those agents that are in the street, these ICE folks that are in the street, and your local law enforcement. Now, what you're starting to see is the local law enforcement officers and agencies and their chiefs kind of totally disassemble themselves from this ICE operation stuff because they don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't have anything to do with it because there's no procedure here, it would seem, for ICE. And who knows what the heck they're doing? It's hard to tell. Um, it is extremely hard to tell what happens next. You can tell that obviously the Democratic officials in Minneapolis, Minnesota are pushing back hard. Certainly, they're making very feverish statements about the situation, but feverish statements and strong statements aren't really going to cut it because Trump at the end of the day is going to try to push back and I suspect try to bully these local elected officials and get them to back down. You can tell that that's unlikely to happen. And this person, Alex Pretti, would appear to be an ICU nurse. Wow. I mean, like I said, this is going to be very difficult to to defend. It was going to be difficult to defend anyway, but now he's an ICU nurse. So that's interesting. I just think that is. I mean, the only worst thing he could have been maybe as a teacher, maybe or something like that. Is just that is not going to go over well at all. And man, that the idea that you can the idea that he can't carry a gun, by the way, that's going to be analyzed as well. People carry guns all the time, and the question is, where was the gun? Where was the position of the gun when they were wrestling with him on the ground? What was the disposition of the gun at that point? Was it in the car? Was it on his person? Like, what are we talking about? And so, of course, all of that has to be pieced together, and it's going to take some time to piece that together. And I wouldn't say it's going to take that long, though. But again, what would be really nice is if the Department of Homeland Security released the body camera footage as related to this incident. That would be a huge help because you would see exactly what happened, exactly what transpired, what was the conversation, what went back and forth, what were they saying to each other, what exactly was going on. That's how you find that out, through body cam video. And I don't see them releasing that. They certainly didn't release it in the case of Renee Good shooting. I'm not sure why they would release it now. And so relying on them to release that, I think, is not particularly it's not particularly likely that they release it. I am trying to wait for the press conference of Christy Nome. It has not popped up yet. I might go off and come back again because this is two different topics. I mean, this video is really about who Alex Pretti was, who is he, and finding out he's an ICU nurse is just kind of shocking. It would, I mean, the administration is trying to define who he um, is, their typical play. The question is, are they accurate and are they telling the truth? And their track record isn't particularly good with that. Um, so we don't know if he confronted law enforcement with a gun. We just don't know that yet. We don't know if the gun was in the car or if the gun was on him. We don't know. We have a video of him with a cell phone in his hand approaching these ICE officers, but we do not have video that would confirm that he had the gun on his person. We don't have that yet. Again, if the Department of Homeland Security put out the police body camera, we could have confirmed that. Because if he has a gun on his person and and they're uh they're wrestling with him, that's a different scenario than if the gun is in the car and they're wrestling with him. But obviously, if the gun is in the car, which this photo is a gun in the car. I mean, I'm just saying, if the gun was on the sidewalk or they took it from him, that is a possibility. They took it from him, put him in the car, put the gun in the car, and took a picture of the gun in the car. They could have done that. But I don't know. We don't know. Again, if you have the body camera footage, you would have all of this answered, right? So why doesn't the Department of Homeland Security just release the body cam footage and then that answers all of these questions? So I think that would be really helpful, right? I mean, this would answer everything. It would answer what they were saying to each other. the disposition of the person they stopped, what his attitude was, whether or not he said something to them, on and on, whether or not the gun was on his person, whether or not the cop said, "Hey, is that a gun right there? Can you take that?" Whatever. I mean, you don't know. You just don't know. Um, the Texas Senate debate, I totally missed that. I might talk about it later. There was a debate in Texas between two Senate candidates. Mike, I might cover that later. At any rate, I think I'm going to bounce and come back, I guess, because Christy Nome has not started yet. So I gotta maybe, let me see. It says live stream starting soon. She's probably just a little late. So everybody, when they're busy, is late on their live stream, which is fine. I wanted to just sort of attach that to this live stream instead of coming back and breaking it up, because I would just like to continue talking rather than break it up, but I could break it up. I don't know. It should be coming pretty soon, I have a feeling. Let me see what CNN is doing, see if they've got her walking in the room or something like that. But what we're going to find out from Christy Nome, who is the director of Homeland Security, is what the disposition of the Trump administration is with regard to how they're going to try to define this incident. I think we can pretty much guess what that's going to be. I mean, they're very consistent with what they do. They're probably going to call this person, this individual who was shot dead, some sort of domestic terrorist, or he was interfering with something or whatever. They're going to come up with some reason, and whether or not that's enough to kill somebody, that's again, when and how you use deadly force is a very huge thing, and it's a huge question that many in law enforcement study and pay close attention to. And it is not a issue that is taken lightly. When you can use deadly force, when you can kill somebody, it's just not. And there's not. And there's no cops that I know that would ever take that subject matter lightly. It's a big deal to take somebody's life. So the question is, what happened here in this case? What are the details? We can see a lot from the video. A lot of times we can't really see a lot from these videos. But boy, do we have some video on this one, and you can see a lot on the video. You can tell a lot from what's going on, and I kind of like that because then you don't have the politics of trying to figure out what people want to show you and what they don't want to show you. You see it, you just see what people filmed and what happened, and there it is. So at any rate, you know that's gonna be it for right now. Probably be back with Christy Nome. I do see that there's sort of a notice up. Typically, they give you a 2 or 3 minute warning or a hey, it's starting soon or whatever. They may or may not do that, but it looks to me like that's probably been backed up for some reason. Of course, she does have to decide if what the posture is going to be, what you're going to say when you get out there, and when you're dealing with an ICU nurse. I can't imagine. I mean, not everybody. It's amazing with this administration. Everybody's crazy. Everybody's nuts. Everybody's a terrorist, and they're just perfect. They just do everything. That's going to be a hard thing to sell when you look at the fact that now we have two people who've been shot dead by an agency that's in a state that one could question, why are they there? Like, just why are they there? Well, like, why is this exercise happening? Why is it that we have the federal government in the street running around conducting raids on people and pulling them out of their cars and all this other drama? And that question is going to be asked again and again and again, and particularly if people start getting hurt, which is exactly what's happening. And a guy named Alex Pretti, who's 37 years old, who was an ICU nurse, being shot dead in the street this morning in Minneapolis after a tussle with police. Certainly, a lot of people say, well, why don't you just obey the police and not stop fighting and stop tussling? Understood. But the question is, because you're fighting and tussling with the police, does that justify you getting killed by the police? Do the police get to kill you because you were tussling and fighting and wrestling with police? Do they get to use deadly force because you're fighting with them? That's the question. And that's where we get into the question of where exactly this firearm was. Was the firearm on his person? Did he have the firearm on him? Was the firearm in the car? Where was this firearm that is in this picture on the screen right now? Like, where was that? And I don't know that it's going to be easy to argue like, where the firearm was. When the firearm's taking a picture of a firearm in the car, it's sort of like, okay, if it was in the car, why is it on the sidewalk or on his person? Now, they could have, again, I want to say this again. They could have taken it off of him and put it in the car and taken a photo of him. And they could have done that. They could have done that, and that would not be that wouldn't surprise me, actually. But I doubt that that was the case. But you just don't know. You don't know. This situation requires more investigation and more facts and more details. And okay, what exactly happened here? You just got to find that out. And the only way you find that out is investigation. You don't find it out because somebody did a press briefing, although the press briefings have been interesting. So that is what is going on. This has been quite an eventful news day in a nation that is about to get hit with a very large snowstorm coming toward the East Coast. And there's going to be a lot of people sitting at home watching the news and watching this situation and, frankly, being very surprised by, I think, some of the details. Again, an ICU nurse named Alex Pretti was shot to death this morning in Minneapolis. He's the second person to be shot dead by the members of ICE, who, of course, ICE being, of course, immigrations and customs enforcement. It's like obviously a branch and an arm of the federal government. This is the second person that they've shot dead in less than a month. The first one being, of course, Renee Good. On January 7, Renee Good, a mother of three. Both of these incidents are shocking to a lot of people, and this is likely to be something that the tension and the attention is going to be ratcheted up on this a great deal, and particularly if we're finding out this guy's an ICU nurse that was legally carrying his firearm. And it looks like he does have a legal permit. So that, friends, is well, I mean, what I think it indicates certainly is that he is somebody who does follow the law and is observant of the law in that sense. He's just not carrying and not telling anybody. And when you have a legal permit, you tend to carry because you know that, okay, I've got my permit, I can carry. So people who do stuff illegal, they put the gun under the seat, hide the gun someplace because they know they're not supposed to have it. So you don't just put it someplace, out where somebody can see it because you're not supposed to have it. This guy apparently does have a legal permit to carry, and which so many hundreds of thousands of people in this country do. And we will see whether or not, like I said, Kristi Noem is going to come out with the same sort of thing that she does typically. I don't know. Hard to tell. Very hard to tell, but I wouldn't say that I'd be shocked if she comes out with the same sort of verbiage as she did on Megan Good, trying to in some way justify this situation. This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live, and when Kristi Noem comes back, I will come back on probably with a live to discuss what she says. I'll be back soon. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in the comments. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of comments going on, and I will say again, release the body camera video. That just makes it so much easier. Release the body camera video. If the cops are correct, that shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem at all. This is Lauren Burke. Thanks everybody out there who joined. I'll be back probably another 20 or 30 minutes. Just want to chop the videos up a little bit. This is Lauren on Lauren Live. I'll be back soon.
Somewhere. What's going on? Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching when I left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's blowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, my grandmother's house is in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone had
get out. It was great.
blown up our spot.
This show was freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it, man. Love it.